A lot of creativity comes from mashing up two or more ideas. And that's really where it's about play, but it's about generating new ideas that can help solve problems and can help, the community and help society as a whole. That's why I think that play is important.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Sound Bombing. I created this show for people who want to experience a radical, life-changing journey through the sounds of my diverse guests. I hope that each sound you hear on this show will strengthen your faith, encourage your dreams, and challenge you to awaken the greatness within you.
Drop the bomb. Drop the bomb. We're gonna drop the bomb. Drop the bomb. We're gonna drop the bomb. Drop the bomb. We come to drop the bomb. Drop the bomb.
This is a journey into sound. A journey which along the way will bring to you new color, new dimension, new values, and a new experience.
Ladies and gentlemen, the star of the show,
Lamar Darnell Shields.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever the time of the day it is, you're at the right place at the right time. Yes, with the right host, on the right show. Welcome to my show. I am Dr. Lamar Darnell Shields. Yes, I am he is I in the flesh, and I am the creator of Sound Bombing. And my goal with this show is to introduce you and all of you that are listening and all of you that are watching with ideas, with new ideas that are fresh, that will help you unlock your full potential. It is nothing like reaching your full potential. And that's why I created this show, because I have some amazing people in my community, people that I know, people that I'm meeting for the very first time, people that I feel like I know, and I'm going to bring them into the space. And today is no different. And for those that know me, I love playing. I love games. I love trivia. I am an intellectual nerd, or maybe I'm just a nerd. Maybe I'm trying to call myself intellectual, but I love education, and I love getting adults and young people to understand the value of play. And I also know, as my research hat, because then I got to put my research hat on, research has shown me that there is real power in play. Did you hear me? Real power in play. Through play, children and adults develop the social, emotional, cognitive, and physical skills that they need to thrive. In education right now, we're hearing a lot of people talk about SEL, social emotional learning. And I do a lot of that work in the work that I do. Not only do I do it for young people, but I talk about social emotional learning for adults. I know play is both fun and a vital way that children and adults learn about themselves and the world around them. It's the very best way for them to think creatively, take healthy risks as they develop their own interests, capabilities, and lifelong learning skills, from exploring new things to overcoming fears and obstacles to making new friends. Play matters in children's and adults' lives. You guys are you're probably wondering, why do I keep talking about adults? Because again, most people think that when we're talking about play, we're only focusing on children. But this conversation is going to talk about adults and children, the things that we learn. I know that play builds the skills for emotional well-being, resilience that children need to succeed, even when facing some of the most challenging situations. Children benefit from playing alone with other children. Adults also can benefit from playing with other adults and with adults in their lives. Playing together builds strong, healthy relationships. It allows adults to relax when we're having our children and to see their children as the smart, capable young people that they are, especially when children lead the play. Well, listen, my next guest knows a whole lot about play. He is the marketing director for Tonies, where he leads Tonies for teachers, partnering with schools, museums, and libraries to promote screen-free education for children. His work contributed to Tonies being named as one of Fast Company's 2021 most innovative companies in education. And you all know I love Inc. magazine and Fast Company. So to have him here is a big deal. Priorities to Tony's, he's led some major priorities for preschool business for Lego. He created the Prescription for Play building, a network of 2,500 pediatricians to promote daily play between parents and children. This program has become one of Lego's key global social responsibility initiative. He is also an entrepreneur and started Connecticut's first state licensed play by the hour. Now, what's interesting, you all know, if you don't know, I will be in Connecticut today. And maybe I'll run into him there, but I don't know if he's in Connecticut, but we're going to find out. Put your hands together for my friend, Drew Vernon. Drew, welcome to Sound Bombing.
Hi, Dr. Shields. It's great to be here. I'm glad to be here.
Are you in Connecticut?
No, I actually moved to Utah during COVID. So I left Connecticut. I'm now in Salt Lake City.
So listen, I'm going to where you just left, and I'm going to be where you are in a couple of months. So we got to do some real time face-to-face. I am going to be speaking in Utah at a national conference. So we'll chop it up then. Let my listeners know how you are doing. We like to do a wellness check-in before we get started.
I'm doing great. We had a really long winter. We had a lot of snow. The sun is out. The snow is gone. Things are cooking at Tony's, and it's just a great day.
Now, for my people that don't know what the ham sandwich Tony's is, they're probably thinking the Tony Award. You know, I love theater. They're probably like, what is Tony? What are they talking about? Let my listeners know what Tony is.
Sure, yeah. Tony's is a screen-free speaker system for kids. We started in Germany about 7 years ago. A couple of dads met on the board of their children's preschool, and they saw their kid's teacher was using a CD player to play songs and stories. They thought CDs are old, they scratch, they break, and kids can't use them on their own. So they created a Toniebox. Little figures go on top of the box, and they'll play you anything from your favorite storybook characters to your favorite TV and film. And I helped launch this into the U.S. About 3 years ago, and we're just trying to reach more kids and promote early literacy and play.
So you heard my introduction. I am a researcher. I am also a parent. I'm also about getting adults into play, and we're going to talk about that. But before we get into your work, I read your bio. I read all the things that you're doing. How did you, Drew, get excited about working in the toy industry?
I started as a beauty marketer. So I went to business school. I came out, worked for Procter and Gamble. I was selling lotion. I was selling mascara, learning a lot about marketing, but it wasn't something I was naturally curious or excited about. Mm-hmm. And that's when I made the transition into toy. So I went to Lego. And it was there that I really started thinking of myself less as a marketing director and more as an advocate for children. And through some of my programs, you mentioned my bio Prescription for Play. That was a light bulb moment for me to say, hey, I can actually make a difference in the life of a child in encouraging and teaching them how to play. And that's the passion that I brought with me to Tony's and what I'm trying to dedicate my career and my life to.
Now, it's not that often that we get a chance to talk to somebody who works for a company that many of us grew up on. Before we get to Tony, I want to talk about Lego. From Chicago, taking my kids to Legoland in Atlanta, got a big Lego store and a water tower. You know, my son, I'd never forget, man, getting in my bed late at night, man, I thought somebody stabbed me in the back. Those Legos were so painful, man. I'm like, what is this dude doing with the Legos in my bed? Talk to me about working for a company like Lego before we get to Tony, because again, quite often we don't get a chance to talk to our people who work for these companies that we grew up loving.
Yeah, I got my first Lego set when I was 6. I still remember it. And I played with Legos. And then at some point I stopped and I went to school and I, worked in beauty companies. And it was really coming back to Lego that I rediscovered my passion for play and what it was like to be a child. And so a lot of innovation, a lot of creativity. Their goal is to develop the builders of tomorrow. So that was a great time for me, leading the earlier ages in preschool, and Tony's is a great growing and fun company too, which I'm hoping to turn into the next Lego.
Oh, I love that, man. So let's talk about young Drew. What was your favorite toy growing up, man? You worked for Lego, now you work for Tony. Talk to me about your toy. What was your favorite toy when you were growing up? I know mine was the Rock'em Sock'em. I really, really loved that. Mine was really, I was really into Star Wars, the Millennium Falcon. What's one of the toys that you really loved growing up?
Well, my first toy actually was a stuffed animal, and it was called a Wuzzle. Not a very popular character, but I used to watch Saturday morning cartoons with them. It was a TV show, and I still got him, and so that was kind of my first introduction into toys. I'm talking about like probably 18 months, 24 months old. And then it wasn't long before I got into Lego and building and anything where I could tinker. And that's where I really started to explore the world of building, not just building bricks, but just building things. And I think that's such a critical role for kids to have. And that guided my childhood for sure.
So Drew, how would you define play, and why do you think play is important?
Yeah, that's a huge topic that we could probably spend an hour on, but play is kind of your less structured opportunity without a defined result. And it's hopefully for the enjoyment of the person who's playing. And what it does is it removes the requirements of an outcome. It removes the requirements of meeting a certain threshold or a certain result that really opens up your mind to new ways of doing things, to creativity. A lot of creativity comes from mashing up two or more ideas. And that's really where it's about play, but it's about generating new ideas that can help solve problems and can help, the community and help society as a whole. That's why I think that play is important.
So in my introduction, I talked a little bit about the role with play as it relates to adults. As we get older, many of us don't really see the value of play. As a facilitator, as a speaker, one of the things that people have said to me is like, Dr. Shields, you really get us involved, you really engage us, you really get us to move around. Why are we not seeing more of that? If we're seeing that play works for young people, and of course we become older, but we're still adults, someone in I say children in adult bodies. What do you see the value in play in adults, and how is your company maybe helping adults also then learn the value of play in their business?
Yeah, I think we get busy. So, when you're young, you have a lot of time on your hands, you're encouraged to play, and then you go to school and you start to learn different skills, and your day fills up and you're busy. And that's why I think there isn't more play. It's just because we're so busy in packing our calendar. I think it's important to carve out time for that, whether it's independent play or community play or play with others. Talking about our product, we have different kinds of characters. I mentioned the tonies that are figures that play songs and stories. That's half of our product. So if you put a Tony on the box, it's going to read you, a Dr. Seuss story. It's going to read you a book. We also have a completely other side, which we call creative Tonys. And those are the ones that are blank. And so usually we're in the context of a child, but you mentioned adults. Anybody can record something. Anybody can write a poem or a story or, anything that can be recorded can be put onto a Tony. And so that's where we can play through thought. We can play through ideation, and we can record it. And that's what I like to promote is the consumer experience of listening to someone else's story, and then the creative experience of writing your own story.
Yeah, I love the value of storytelling. Again, as a facilitator, I'm constantly talking about the power of story, helping adults and also young people to really find their voice, to help them learn to grow from the lessons. Speaking of story, you got an opportunity that most of us would love to do. If you grew up in a certain era, there was a guy by the name of LeVar Burton on Reading Rainbow. Now, I know you were one of the many kids like me who when I read your story, you gained your love of reading from LeVar Burton on Reading Rainbow. A few years ago, you got a chance to meet him. Talk to me about that opportunity to meet LeVar Burton and his connection to the Tony brand as well.
Yeah. As I mentioned, I grew up playing with Lego. I also grew up watching PBS and reading Rainbow, and LeVar Burton was one of my heroes. He was one of the figures that taught me how to read, or to learn to love reading, I should say. And part of my rediscovery back into the world of childhood was remembering this. And so when I came to Tony's, I thought, who better to help tell our story? Who better to help us promote early childhood literacy than LeVar Burton himself? So I took a shot in the dark. I reached out to him and his team, and believe it or not, he took to the Toniebox and he agreed to come on board. So we created a Tony together. You mentioned the importance of social and emotional learning. We actually created a LeVar Burton figure that focuses on that through his book. He had written a book called The Rhino Who Swallowed the Storm, which teaches kids how to deal with difficult life situations. So we put that on a Tony, and we also teamed up for a storybook, a reading event. We went to a school in Southern California, and we just read to kids. And that was a career highlight for me, to meet one of my heroes, because it reinforced the idea that we can all be the authors of our own stories. And part of that is to help other people find, their way, and help other people become authors of their own stories.
Wow. So how is it working with a celebrity that close? I know you guys have a relationship with Disney and other people that you all are working with, to be that close to celebrity, someone you grew up with, and then to be able to sort of roll out a plan, a strategy with someone that you just admire. What was that connection like as soon as you got a chance to meet him and work with him?
The connection was great. They say don't meet your heroes, but I think LeVar Burton was a very genuine individual. He just exudes just caring and compassion. I think he has a genuine care for reading, and he's exhibited that through his work on public television. And I think he has a podcast now where he focuses on reading. But that's where the magic was, and the connection is because it wasn't about him as a celebrity. It wasn't about him as a famous rich person. It was about him and I sharing a common vision, which is to helping children learn how to read and learn to love reading. And that was a magical thing.
Well, speaking of magic, I know that research shows strong links between creative play and language, physical, social, emotional, and cognitive development. Play helps to develop the whole child, WHOLE, child. Explain, Drew, for us how your products do just that.
Yeah, so we're a tool. So every child needs a tool, or an adult for that matter needs tools in their toolbox. So if you have a machine or a speaker that you can use intuitively at young ages, that can be an on-demand audio library for you, that gives you the tools of additional vocabulary, the reference points that stories provide. I talk a lot about the hero's journey, which is basically the construct of every story is a hero overcomes a challenge to get to a reward. You need to offer that to children over and over and over again. That's a tool. That's a reference point that allows them to start to think about solving their own problems, becoming their own hero, and writing their own story. So that's what our product does. It's a tool to help enable children to put the pieces together. And that a lot of that's done through play. You take the tools and you put them together creatively, and we call it play.
So I know, Drew, that May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and there's been this huge stigma around mental health in all communities, but I know in people of color and disparate communities, we see it at a greater rate. If you haven't been watching the news, there was a killing in New York City on a train. There's a guy mentally disturbed, a gentleman who was in the armed services. I can't say he was a veteran, killed him. I don't think his intention, as he said, was not to kill him. I guess, but to slow him down because he didn't want him to hurt others. And when you think about Mental Health Awareness Month, which we're celebrating or honoring now, what are some of the resources, because you talked about tools, what are some of the resources and tools that Tonies has created to help promote kids' emotional and mental health?
Yeah. It's hard for, yeah, we do have a mental health crisis. There's no avoiding that or ignoring that. It's hard for me to talk about mental health without talking about the pervasiveness of screens in our lives. Screens are, that's the channel through which we see terrible news like this happening all over the world. Screens are the means by which we see the picture perfect or seemingly picture perfect lives of others, of the highlight reels of Instagram. This is all adding up in a way that is damaging our perceptions of ourselves and the way that we should be, and the disconnect between the happiness that we want and the anxiety that we feel. Our product is distinctly and deliberately screen-free. So that's the first measure that we take in helping to improve is just to keep kids off of screens. They say that 85% of a person's brain is developed by age 5. And that's the critical time in a child's life where if you're giving them interactive, tactile experiences, you're going to help them mold and develop that brain. If you're giving them a screen, and I'm not saying that all screens are bad, there's a time and a place for screens. The World Health Organization, the American Academy of Pediatricians, both suggest that screens be limited to an hour a day for kids 2 to 5. We just went through a global pandemic where parents were trying to give their kids screens. They were giving them Netflix shows and iPads because they had to. And now that the pandemic is over, we have some bad habits, and our children's media usage is 25% above pre-COVID levels. So that's kind of a long answer about mental health, but I think it's tied to screens. There are other factors as well. And my mission and hope is to give kids tactile, interactive experience without giving them a screen to stare at.
I love it. Drew, I call them screenagers, man. I don't even call them teenagers. They're screenagers. They're so addicted, to what I call these dopamine fixes, is that they need like this dopamine high. And so the screen is a tool to actually use that. And I love that tonies and you are on a mission. Let's talk about that mission when it comes to developing a product. I'm always interested in creators, how they develop a product, how to develop a campaign. Walk us through this product development of one of your toys.
So our main product, the content tonies, that relies on partnership with a content partner. So we sometimes we call it licensing. So if you're going to go with Disney, you license their property and you create a product. Either it's something that exists, maybe some Disney songs or a Disney story. That's one way that we can create product simply by licensing the properties of others. We also have our own in-house production. So if we want to create something from scratch, then we will take an idea and we will write a storyboard, we'll script it out, and then we'll record it and put it on a Tony. So it can happen a variety of different ways, but it's essentially taking an existing or new piece of content and putting it onto a Tony. And then there's also the physical aspect of that, which is doing the custom molded figurines and shaping it and designing it and matching up the physical product with the audio product.
So walk me in that room. If we would open a door and we saw them coming up with this product, the storyboard, what will we see? What will we hear? Because many of us won't have an opportunity to walk, like going through Legos when they're doing the mold. If we would open that door and you would give me a tour, Drew, what would I actually see? What would I actually hear from some of your colleagues?
Well, I think it goes back to what we're trying to do. And I think that's anytime you take on a creative undertaking, you need to have a clear objective. And you don't have to have the same objective for every product. Some of our products are strictly about entertainment. So we have products with Disney songs, and that's, just to have fun or to get kids out of their chairs, wiggling, do action songs. Or you say, hey, I want to create something that actually teaches kids, or I want to teach them, tools that they can have in their life. And so that's something that's different, where you need to take a look at the process. And that's how we put together Tonies. And then just kind of going back to the physical aspect of it, we're a German company and the figures are designed in Germany. And there's this tiny little village where will just do all sorts of torture tests themselves, which is kind of an interesting thing where we'll tug at the figures, we'll put them in like a little tumbler, we'll drop them, we'll try that, because they have to be kid appropriate and kid safe. And so that's part of the creation as well, as just making sure that the actual figures withstand, anything that a 2 or 3-year-old might do to them.
Well, I know based on what was shared with me that you've received tons of awards. And one of the awards, I believe, is called the Ambassador of Play. What is the Ambassador of Play?
That's through the Toy Association. So I'm a member of that, and that's just a band of people.
Is it the Play Ambassador, Genius of Play? Was it called Genius of Play or Genius?
The Genius of Play. Yeah, the Genius of Play is a Toy Association initiative where, regardless of what company you work for, people who care about play, people who want to promote play, coming together and just advocating for play.
Man, I need to get that award. Man, nobody's giving me the Genius of Play award. That is an honor to actually have. So I can hear in your tone, as I read in your bio, that there's a level of excitement and drive. What excites you, Drew, about this work? I looked at your bio. You could do anything. What is it about working for this particular company that really excites you?
It's part of my own little journey. I was in beauty marketing. I learned how to sell lotion, and, I did my job and I got a paycheck, and that was it. It was coming into Lego and now to Tonies, where I can still be a marketer. I can still do my job. I can still get a paycheck, but it's that next level of actually caring about kids, actually caring about the work that I'm doing. The Toniebox is a universally applicable device for a child to have. And knowing that makes it less of a sales pitch for me. I don't want it to be a sales pitch. I get paid to sell, Tonieboxes at Target. That's all fine and good. But what I'm in it for at this point in my life and my career is to actually make a difference. And I truly believe that I can put a Toniebox in every preschool classroom in America. I believe that I can put a Toniebox in every public library in America. And I believe that this can help kids learn and grow. And that's what fuels my passion and enthusiasm.
Well, I heard you say that Tony is a German company. So you have Germany and you have the United States. Very different countries. How is that relationship working? And I'm not talking about Germans versus Americans, but how are there similarities and are there differences on how German children engage when it comes to play, as opposed to American children, how they engage in play?
Yeah, there are differences. Certainly, the language is different. Some of the culture is different. Americans tend to lean more towards IPs or well-known characters, your Spider-Mans, Batmans, and Elsas of the world. So that the type of content is a little bit different, but the play experience is universal. And that is the power of stories and the power of play. And we embrace both of those, regardless of what language you're listening to and regardless of what country you're, having the experience in.
I love that. Yeah, to hear you say it's a German company, people talk about differences of how businesses are run. I think that's interesting. But I think what's more interesting is that if there's a product that works in one country, will that product sort of carry over? Drew, do you have one of the boxes near you at all that you can share with the audience?
I do, yeah. So this is a Toniebox. It's screen free. Has little ears on top. That's the volume control and also how you wake it up. So this is good for little hands. You can volume up or volume down. The navigation of the content is also tactile. So because there's no screen, no interface, if you want to move to the next song or story, you give it a tap on the box. So I've got, we call it the Lori Berkner Tony. She's a musician, and you put it on the box and it's going to start playing.
When I woke up today, I shouted out, "Hey!" Because I knew I'd see you and we could.
So you take the Tony off the Toniebox and it'll stop playing, and then you can also move to the next track.
Wow. So how do you all choose the music? How do you choose the artists? How do you choose the songs that are going to be played?
Well, we start with, what is popular for kids. So that's getting us back to the mega IPs of, Frozen. We actually just launched Encanto yesterday. So that's a really popular one. So we start with pop culture. We also look for, relevance. I like the classic stories that I grew up with, Dr. Seuss, The World of Eric Carle, Roald Dahl. And so there's a variety of different sources. I lead our education program as well, which is focused on putting tonies into classrooms and libraries across the country. And we actually break it up into 4 different content areas or centers. One is reading, so all of the figures that can be paired with a book to read along with. One is play, so that's your wiggle songs, your action songs. Another one is discovery, so your nonfiction content with National Geographic, with PBS Kids. And then we have our mindfulness center, which is focused on healthy habits, social and emotional learning, and learning how to relax and calm down.
Are you learning anything culturally about the children that you engage in? Because we know that the culture and the cultural landscape of what children used to look like, the dominant culture, gender, all of these other things sort of play a role in how young people are being educated. Is Tony staying abreast with those times? And are you seeing any shift in the products that you're making based on where they're being sold?
Yeah. This is my opinion, but I think that kids are all kind of born similarly. I think there's an intuitive and natural spirit to the human condition.
I agree. I agree too. I agree 100% with you.
I think once you're born and you go, you start learning, and you learn the good things, you learn the bad things, you learn good habits, bad habits. And a lot of times we get into the way of kids by teaching them the wrong things. And, that's probably a bigger topic too. But, teaching kids to learn how to take a test and learn how to pass a test is a different thing than teaching a child how to think critically and creatively. And so I think that we're seeing an epidemic, going back to the screens, but I think it's goes back to mental instability, social anxiety, inability to focus. I go to a lot of teacher conferences, librarian conferences, and the thing that I hear from them all is that kids are growing up differently than they were a generation ago. And that's what I'm trying to counteract, is to preserve that beauty and innateness of the human spirit of a child, and to give them the right tools and the right experiences to help them grow into adolescence and adulthood.
So as you travel, and I appreciate that, as you travel to these trade shows, these teachers conferences, these workshops, what are you hearing some of the teachers say about the product? And then is the company open to teachers who are saying, hey, we're seeing more of this, can you tweak it this way? Because I like how you said you want the natural growth process of a young person, but then also if we're seeing things differently. I know as an educator, as a speaker, I sort of know my audience. And I remember, one day I was saying something about, I thought everybody knew Puff Daddy, P. Diddy Combs. I gave every label. And my son, who's 16, is like, he calls me Baba. Baba, they were 6th and 7th graders. I'm thinking like pop culture. And I was like, yeah, Puff Daddy or P. Diddy. And they were like, who? And so I, as a facilitator, I'm always saying, know your audience. So are you all, of course, listening to, are you open to what teachers are saying? And then also, what's been the response of the product?
Yeah, the response of the product is really good. So this started with Tonies for Teachers. I think that was in my bio. It's expanded beyond teachers because now it's Tonies for librarians, Tonies for museums, Tonies for hospitals. I'm wrapping this all up in Tonies education. So basically the educational applications of Tonies is the initiative that I'm leading. So the response is great. I'm working with speech language pathologists who are telling me that this helps with speech and language development. I'm working with optometrists that are saying that, kids who are not staring at screens so much actually have better eyesight. I'm talking with pediatricians who are touting the cognitive, and even fine motor skill development that the Toniebox offers. So we're taking in all of the feedback. I'm trying to do my best to grow this program. It's to be honest, the Tony's education and my interest in this is kind of a fraction of my job. My job is to be the marketing director. So I do spend a lot of my time making TV commercials, making catalogs, doing the stuff that's going to help us sell, Elsa at Target or Walmart. But my passion is on the education side. And that's what I'm hoping to spend more time and effort on in the future.
What are some things that you're learning about education? Because I know you don't really have an education background. What are some things that are surprising that you're hearing about education initiatives, and educators who are engaging you at these events?
I think the biggest revelation for me is that there are a lot of people who care. There are a lot of people who are dialed in, but we're a victim of our systems and our governments and our budgets. And it's really hard to get over because we have different incentives. The incentives that we have, and I'm speaking specifically to kind of like the US education system, the way that it's structured and incentivized is to get kids through school, to get them to pass their tests. And hopefully they'll get on to, we tell them to all go to college and all get a good job. I think what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to re-examine those incentives and say, hey, how can we better prepare our kids through giving them the right tools, regardless of that leading to a memorized answer to a test or a one-track solution for how they need to approach their educational and professional career.
Such a great way of looking at education. Drew, how can my listeners get access to the Tonys? Where can they purchase them? Talk to us about that.
Yes, so we have been in the US market for under 3 years, so we're still kind of growing our distribution. You can find us at tonies.com, that's tonies.com, or Amazon. We're also nationwide in Target as of a couple of months ago, as well as Best Buy, Barnes & Noble, independent specialty retail, and we'll be expanding with further brick and mortar distribution in the fall.
I love it, man. What's your hope for the product?
I really do believe that this is a universal product that any child going on the path towards literacy could benefit from. So it's literally getting into every preschool home and every public library and preschool. That's my goal and vision.
Drew, how can my listeners get in contact with you?
Best way to reach out to me is probably on LinkedIn. Connect with me there. You can also send an email to hello@tonies.com. That'll get back to me as well. Any interest or inquiry in the educational program, I'd be happy to share.
There you go, Drew Vernon, Tony and the Toniebox. Drew, thanks for hanging out with me, but you cannot leave just yet. The second part of the show, the Super Bomb questions. I'm going to ask you quickly, and I need you to respond as quickly as possible. Drew, you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's go. What's your favorite word?
My favorite word, I'd say create.
What's your favorite quote, lyrics to a song, or favorite word, a saying?
My mantra is every day you have to wake up twice. I spoke to that. One day you're waking up for your paycheck to do your job. The second awakening is to do what you care about and what you want to do because you're passionate about it.
What's your superpower?
My superpower is perseverance, figuring things out and getting it done.
What's your spirit animal?
My spirit animal, I would say probably a monkey. I'm a little goofy. I'm going to go with monkey.
What moves you to tears of joy?
Just seeing the impact, the positive impact and the change that happens from like somebody that I've touched.
What moves you to tears of sorrow?
These are heavy questions. Tears of sorrow, probably feeling inadequate or that I can't do enough.
What do you wish you had more time to do?
I'm like fully dialed into this literacy thing, to be honest. Like I breathe and sleep and drink it. I wish I had more time just to keep plugging away.
What advice are you glad you ignored?
I don't know if it was explicit advice, but I think it's just that you are supposed to do things a certain way. That when you hit 18, you graduate high school, and when you hit 22, you graduate college, and then you go work for a company and you take a paycheck and you have a mortgage. And I'm trying to ignore that advice because I think there's a lot more potential with, exploring true just creative ability.
Drew, our final question. What's your favorite sound?
My favorite sound. I would say probably the ocean. I like the beach. So the waves, nothing better than sitting on a chair and just listening to the ocean.
I love that too, man. Drew Vernon, Tonies for Teachers, partnering with schools, museums, and libraries. Brother, I love the direction that you're going in. I wish you much success. I can see and hear the passion in your voice, man. So thanks for hanging out with me today.
Thank you, Dr. Shields. It's a great opportunity to be on Sound Bombing. Thank you for having me.
And I would like to thank Supremacy for our theme music and all of you for listening. Make sure you subscribe. Stop being stingy. Leave a comment. Share me with all of your friends. If you want to know more about me, go to drdrlds.com. As always, believe that something wonderful is about to happen and that some people miss the message because they are too busy looking for the mess. Go out and buy a Tony. Go to the store. Go online. It's everywhere. If you like the show, please subscribe. Hit that like button. Take care. Peace.